Hey Lisa, hi. Thanks for joining in. How are you? It's been a while. I haven't really had that much time to catch up on other videos ahead of Gameweek 31, to be honest. So I will definitely try to check out your videos ahead of the deadline, but I haven't had a time so far. So please let me know your thoughts ahead of Gameweek 31. At the moment, I'm considering to do something like Mosquera to a Newcastle defender and bench Van Hecke. I have Van Hecke playing against Ekitike, so we'll probably make the move. My plan is currently to play my wildcard in Gameweek 32 and bench boost Gameweek 33 free hit in Gameweek 34. I'm okay. My laptop broke a couple of weeks ago, so it's making things difficult. Ooh. That actually happened to me. It was last summer. I had to go buy a new laptop to start creating FPL videos again. Mostly making shorts. Yeah, I've seen a couple of your shorts, really good stuff. So if you're watching this, if you're interested in shorts for every game week, I know FPL is making good stuff about transfers, captaincy ahead of every game week, so that should be valuable ahead of Gameweek 31 as well. Harry, is free hit worth with 5 players and 3 free transfers? So if you only have 5 players ahead of Gameweek 31, I would definitely consider playing my free hit. The thing is that there will be a bigger double blank game week coming up in blank Gameweek 34. Do you have your wildcard left? Your wildcard can potentially solve your problems for both blank Gameweek 31 and blank Gameweek 34. Yukesh, hi, I have Kelleher, Konate, Senesi, Cash, Rogers, Bruno Fernandes, Wilson, Soboslai, Django, Krupi Jr., and Joe Pedro. My bench is Raya, Gabriel, Hallen, and Richards. I'm looking to change Richards to Tiav and Hallen to Thiago. I have my wildcard still. Six City plus Arsenal. So before answering Yukesh edits, I think I have to complete the question from Harry. I have my wildcard still, 6 players from City Arsenal. So there are a lot of managers with a lot of City Arsenal players and Crystal Palace as well. Harry, he is one of them, 6 players from City, Arsenal, and Richards as well. So I think with this team, you can potentially use 3 free transfers, bench 3 players. It's probably the best strategy. Try to handle blank Gameweek 31 and then use your wildcard in Gameweek 32. So my advice would be to keep the players that you're most invested in. So it kind of depends on at what price you bought players like Semenyo, Gabriel, Erling Haaland. So if you have a lot of funds invested in those players, I would just keep them on my bench. So on the screen, I have my own team. I have Erling Haaland in, I have Gabriel. So at the moment, I have a lot invested in those players. So I will just keep Erling Haaland and Gabriel. I will most probably sell Mosquera. So my advice, Harry, would be to just keep 3 of those players on my bench. and try to field 11 players and play your wildcard next game week. Virat Kohli, Salam, how are you? All good? Thanks for joining in. So, Yukish, with this team, Kelleher, Konati, Senesi, Cash, Rogers, Bruno Fernandes, Wilson, Soboslai, Django, Tara, Krupi Jr., Joe Pedro. Bench is Raya, Gabriel, Holland, Richard. So all of the players on the bench blanking. I'm looking to change Richards to Thiav, Erling Haaland to Thiago. So selling Erling Haaland is probably fine at this point. As I mentioned with Harry's team, I think it kind of depends what price you brought Erling Haaland and are you able to bring him back for double game week 33. So I think Thiav is a really good transfer in at the moment. Solid fixture this game week. Game week 32 as well, and a potential, most likely a double in double game week 33. So I like those fixtures. Igor Thiago, is he the best option at the moment? He won't have a double in double game week 33, but I think Igor Thiago, I watched the game. I owned Igor Thiago in game week 30. Was a bit unlucky not to score, hit the post. Should have had at least 2 goals in the last game week. So Igor Thiago, definitely someone to consider bringing in. So Richards, Erling Haaland to Thiav, and Thiago. I think this makes sense, to be honest. FPL FOMO, hopefully rolling to 5 free transfers for game week 32 with Cole Palmer, captain. Nice. So FPL FOMO, one of those players going without Erling Haaland and Mo Salah for all of the season. Has been some ups and downs so far this season. Please let me know, FPL FOMO, what's your current rank at the moment? FPL Lisa, I'm transferring in Thiago and Soboslai for Gyökeres and Semenyo. Yeah. So both, the players you're transferring out definitely makes sense. Gyökeres, Semenyo, both of them blanking. I said this a couple of times already. Kind of depends how much you have invested in Semenyo. What price did you bring him in? If you really want Semenyo back for game week 32, it might actually be a good idea to just keep Semenyo on the bench. But if you have the likes of Gabriel and Erling Haaland, you really want to keep those players as well, of course, I think it makes sense to just get rid of Semenyo. Magnus, hi. Do you know when we will have more information about which teams are going to have double game week and blank game week in double game week 33 and game week 34? Yeah. So the thing is that the FA Cup, the next round of fixtures will be played ahead of game week 32. So we will know which teams will have blanks and doubles ahead of game week 32. We know at this point that there will be 4 teams blanking in blank game week 31. Man City, Arsenal, Crystal Palace, and Wolves. And we know that the teams reaching the next round of the FA Cup, they will blank in game week 34. And this fixtures looks really, really likely to be moved and played in double game week 33. This will be confirmed ahead of game week 32. Virat Kohli reviews, yes. So if you're interested, and please send reminders in the chat. If you're interested in having your team reviewed, head over to X, post a picture of your latest team selection, and I'll get it up on the screen. Mainly down, FPL FOMO, mainly down. 1.9 million. Target is to be inside the top 1 million. So FPL FOMO, playing without Erling Haaland and Mo Salah. So the thing is that after Christmas, going without both Mo Salah and Erling Haaland hasn't been the worst strategy, of course. The thing is that when you go without highly owned players like Erling Haaland, you really need your replacements to do well, of course. Jack Richard, I have no free transfers and only 9 players playing this week. Messed up my strategy, hoping I don't fall too far from 200k. So good position to be in 200k at this point, but it could be a bad week. So I think, so if you're heading into blank game week 31 with only 9 available players, it will most probably be a red arrow, but hopefully it will not be that big. I think if you only have 9 players, it's probably worth it taking a -4 to bring in someone you think will do well in blank game with 1. So essentially, the -4 will, in theory, be a -2 because of the parents' points. So taking a punt ahead of blank game with 1, I think this is a good strategy if you only have 9 available players. Magnus, thanks for the answer. What is your highest overall rank in FPL ever? My highest ever rank in FPL is 156 or 7. I'm sorry, 157. Which is quite good. So I have actually finished inside the top 10k 3 times. So 157 being the best. I have another 6,000 rank and a 9,000 rank as well. I'm not going to better my all-time best this season at this point. I'm like, I haven't really checked recently. Give me a minute. My rank at the moment is 330k. So not able to, most probably not able to go inside the top 10k this season. So why is no one talking about Jared Bowen for Erling Haaland? It's probably because you can bench Erling Haaland this game week and have him back for the double in double game week 33. And I really like Jared Bowen. I have actually owned Jared Bowen on 2 different occasions so far this season. He's on penalties for West Ham as well, so there's definitely a case for bringing in Jared Bowen. He's one of those 90 minutes men. He can pick up defensive contributions as well, so Jared Bowen definitely one to consider. I think the reason why no one is talking about Jared Bowen at the moment is probably because of Igor Thiago is, or at least he has had better fixtures recently. But Jared Bowen, if you want a safe option in the run-in, he's definitely one to consider. Why is the strategy a wildcard in game week 32? So the reason why I will wildcard in, give me a minute and I will put this up. The reason why I will wildcard in game week 32 is, so at the moment we're heading into blank game week 31 with no Man City, Crystal Palace, Wolves, Arsenal. They will not have a feature this game week. So game week 32, a normal game week. I will use my wildcard this week, and in game week 32, we know that there will be a double game week. So I will use my wildcard in game week 32 to set up a strong team for double game week 33, and I will play my bench boost in this game week. The same teams that will have a double in double game week 33 are also the teams that will have a blank in blank game week 34. So the FA Cup semifinals will be played in game week 34, and this will cause a blank, and the fixtures that will not be played in game week 34 will be moved and played in game week 33. So my strategy at the moment is to handle game week 31 with my free transfers, wildcard in game week 32, use my bench boost in double game week 33, and then free hit in game week 34. Eddie Casey, thanks for joining in. Hi there. I got 3 free transfers, 0.7 in the bank. Do I need anyone? The team is Lammens in goal, Hall, Van Dijk, Hill, Fernandes, Mbumo, Django, Tara, Tavernier, Rogers, Joe Pedro, and Igor Thiago. On the bench, Ruffs, Mukiele, Gabriel, and Erling Haaland. Lammens, Hall, Van Dijk, Hill, Fernandes, Mbumo, Django, Tara, Tavernier. With 3, so you're in a really good position, to be honest, Eddie. We know that there are some teams with a lot of players from Arsenal and Man City, but looking at this team, it actually looks like your team looks decent ahead of blank game with your 1, but seeing that you have 3 free transfers, so with this team, I would potentially, it kind of depends on your chip strategy, of course, but with this team, I would just save a transfer and play this team next game week, to be honest. Mukiele, Gabriel, Erling Haaland, Lewis Hall, Van Dijk, Hill. I think this team is solid. Of course, you have Hill playing against Fernandes and Mbumo, so you can potentially, of course, do something like Mukiele to Anderson, the Fulham defender, or potentially a Newcastle defender, double up with Hall and Tiav to avoid having Hill play against Fernandes and Mbumo. I actually think I would do this, seeing that you have 3 free transfers, so definitely something to consider, doubling up on the Newcastle defense with both Hall and Tiav. Sell Mukiele, bring in Tiav, bench Hill to avoid Hill against Fernandes and Mbumo. Cunha or Mbumo? I think Mbumo is probably the best option. His minutes looks more secure. He's looking more threatening as well, especially on counter-attacks and transitions. Mbumo is probably the best FPL option at the moment. We know that Cunha, of course, a really good player, but he hasn't really delivered recently for Man United. So if it's between Cunha or Mbumo, I would go Mbumo for now. Harry, is it viable to free hit in game week 31, roll 5 free transfers to 34, and then wildcard 35 bench boost 36? Yeah, definitely something to consider. If you're really struggling for blank game week 31, this can potentially be a much better strategy. So free hit this game week, get your all team back for game week 32. You will, of course, need to have a... The problem is that in double game week 33, there will be a lot of players with good double fixtures. You will be really tempted to bring them in, and then in game week 34, the same players will blank. So this is why I'm going for the strategy of playing my free hit in blank game week 34. So you can potentially do something like free hit in game week 31 if you really need a free hit this game week. You can wildcard in. So you can set up a really good team for double game week 34 by using your transfers and then wildcard in game week 34. This would probably be my strategy if I were to use my free hit this game week. So free hit in game week 31, use my transfers to load up on double game week 33 players, and then wildcard in game week 34. I have no wildcard. Do I have no wildcard? Do I have free hits and bench boosts? So Eddie Casey, no wildcard, but he has the free hit and bench boost. The thing is that there are a lot of good cheap strategies. The only thing we have to keep in mind is that if you're loading up on double game week players that has 2 fixtures in double game week 33, you have to keep in mind that the same players will blank in blank game week 34. So my advice would be to just use my transfers to load up on double game week 33 players like potentially Newcastle, Brighton, Man City, Arsenal, and then use my free hit in game week 34. The reason why I would use my free hit in game week 34 is because some of those players like Man City, Arsenal, Newcastle, you will potentially want them from game week 35 and all the way until game week 38. So I think if you only have your free hit and bench boosts, I think I will use my free hit in blank game week 34 and potentially use my bench boost in double game week 36. We will potentially have a double game week in double game week 36 as well. So free hit in the blank game week 34, bench boost in a potential double game week 36. So let's have a look if there are any teams posted on X. So if you're interested in having your team reviewed, head over to X. FPL FOMO posted his team. Let's see if there's a message in this one. Just going to risk that cash starts. So this is FPL FOMO's team ahead of game week 31. So it's a rough single. He can potentially start. He's a doubt, but he's orange at moments. But I think that if he's fit enough, he will potentially start against Newcastle. We have Kelleher playing against Leeds. I kind of agree with FPL FOMO with this selection because Kelleher playing against Leeds, and we can see that FPL FOMO, he actually has Calvert-Lewin up front. So starting roughs against Newcastle, seeing that you don't have any attacking assets from Newcastle, I think this makes sense. So I wouldn't be worried about roughs being subbed on. So roughs, he will either start or not play at all. So roughs in the starting 11 makes sense. Cash flagged as well. Hopefully he will play. Van Dijk, Robinson, really good differential ahead of game week 31. Really good fixture playing at home against Burnley. Fulham, they are actually the bookie's favorite to keep a clean sheet ahead of the next game week. I might actually bring in a Fulham defender myself, considering someone like Robinson or potentially Anderson. I'm tempted by Newcastle defense as well. I will talk about this in a minute. Double up on Man United with Bruno Fernandes and Bumo. Cole Palmer's in captain. Nice. We have Rodgers, good fixture against West Ham. It's actually a triple up on Aston Villa. This could potentially have been a really, really good triple up, but Aston Villa, they haven't really delivered in recent game weeks. So a bit unlucky for FPL FOMO, the dip in form for Aston Villa. So Rodgers is actually one of those players with the highest expected goal involvement, but no FPL returns. So Igor Thiago is in playing against Leeds, so it's Calvert-Lewin, 2 number 9s playing against each other in this fixture. So potentially and hopefully this will be a game with a lot of goals. FPL FOMO, I'm okay if Keller comes in, save points maybe for roughs. Yeah, Will owe me a lot of points. Hopeless. Yeah, I have had Rogers recently as well, so I know what you're talking about. But of course, tripling up is even more painful for FPL FOMO. So I have had Rogers since I think it's game week 22, something like that. So really, really frustrating owning Rogers in FPL at the moment. Ruben Crooks, hey boys, just tuning in. Thanks for tuning in, Ruben. How are you? This is FPL FOMO's team posted on X. So if you're interested in having your team reviewed on the screen, head over to X, post a picture, and we'll get it up on the screen. And if you have posted your team, and if I forget to put it up, just send reminders in the chat. So what you need to do is to head over to X, same handle as on YouTube. It's at fpltfs. Find this post. It's the Q&A Gameweek31. And post a picture in the comments. Two hours ago and 2 hours ago. So that's so ahead of the game. Magnus, please let me know if you're still in the chat. This is Virat Kohli's team. That's probably decent. Let's see. Something like that. So this is Virat Kohli's team posted on X. So it's Sanchez, in goal, Dubravka, Hill, Van Dijk, Anderson, Mukiele, Gabriel, obviously with no fixture, Bruno Fernandes, Rogers, Mbumo, Florian Wirtz, and Semenyo. Up front, Krupi Jr., Thiago, and Ekitiki. So Magnus, I'm here. Will definitely get your team up. I saw your team on X, Magnus. Terribly sorry. Posted 2 hours ago, but my mistake. I will put it up on the screen in a minute. But let's just finish with Virat Kohli. No transfers, 0.8. No wildcard left, just free hit, bench boost. So with this team, you can definitely handle blank game week 31 with this team. So my first thought with this team is that you definitely don't need to play a chip this game week. You can survive in the blank game week 31. Possibly save a transfer next game week and try to load up on as many double game week players as you can ahead of double game week 33. You can potentially use your free hit in blank game week 34. Bench boost in game week 36. So with this team, it's obvious that Hill, Van Dijk, Anderson, they have to start, right? Gabriel, Semenyo will be on the bench. I think Krupi Jr. I think Mukiele will be on their bench with Gabriel Semenyo. So what you potentially can do with this team is to actually sell Mukiele, as mentioned. I think I potentially would do something like Mukiele to Mukiele to Tiav, bench Krupi Jr. So at least you will have some cover on the bench. So if you decide to bench boost, as mentioned in the chat, Mark, really sorry, I will put up your team, of course, as well. So with this team, Mukiele to Tiav, bench Gabriel, bench Semenyo, bench Krupi Jr., and 4-4-2 bench boost in game week 33, free hit in game week 34. I think this is the best strategy with this team and your available chips at the moment. Joe Pedro or Ekitike? I think for this game week, I would just keep Ekitike, to be honest. I wouldn't use a transfer this game week on Ekitike to Joe Pedro. You can potentially consider doing this ahead of double game week 33, but for game week 31, definitely just keep Ekitike and save the transfer. I would be much more interested in bringing in Tiav this game week, to be honest, and this will give you a potential double game with 3 player as well. So especially if you're going to use your bench boost in double game with 3, Michele to Tiav would be my advice. Yes, Pedro or Ekitike. For this game week, for me, it's Ekitike ahead of double game week 3. Liverpool will play against Man City in the FA Cup, so if Liverpool win this fixture, they might potentially blank game with 3-4 and have a double, but Man City, they are favorites to win against Liverpool in the FA Cup, so we will know the result of this game ahead of game week 3-2, but at this point, we're not really sure if Liverpool will have a double or not, so my advice would be to just save the transfer and keep Ekitike for now. Captain, who actually I'm leaning towards captaining Bruno Fernandes this game week. He is like the safest option. Of course, we know that Ekitike can do well. Igor Thiago is another option. But Bruno Fernandes, he has been so consistent recently. He's had a rest as well, so I'm leaning towards captaining Bruno Fernandes. So Ekitike, I would actually not advise on captaining Ekitike because Liverpool, they have had a lot of fixtures and they will play in the FA Cup as well. Football and stuff. Last game week, I was 360. I got 71 points. Now I'm 230k. What rank do you think I can get? So we're kind of... Let's see. I think you potentially can reach top 50k if you're 230 at this point. Harry start Palmer, Pedro or Thiago on a free hit. My other forward is Ekitike. So on a free hit, start Palmer, Joe Pedro or Igor Thiago. All of them really, really good options. Ooh. -4 for a defender. I think it's actually worth it. I think it's actually worth taking a -4, bringing in a player that will have a double in double game week 3. The reason why I would take the hit, I know that you potentially have 11 starters for game week 31, but seeing he'll play against both Bruno Fernandes and Mbumo, they will cancel each other out. So I would actually just take the -4, to be honest. As you said to me, take up Mukiele. I have 4.9. I can get Collins or Trippier or Livramento in. I think Collins is a solid option from Brentford considering the fixtures, but Trippier, Livramento, I would actually advise against bringing in Trippier, Livramento at the moment, to be honest, because they're not really nailed on, and especially in a double game week, I can't see Livramento, Trippier starting at least one of the games in a potential double on the bench. So at the moment, I think Collins would be my preferred option. Weird Collie for who? I think I would go for Tiav. Michele to Tiav would probably be my transfer with this team. So Magnus, let's have a look at this team as well. So at first glance, there are some problems in this team. We can see that no playing bench, triple up, at least a double up on Arsenal. So it's Gabriel, Subimendi on the bench. We have O'Reilly, Erling Haaland, and Lacroix in defense as well. So 5 players. It's a triple up on Arsenal, of course, when we include David Raya. So triple up on Arsenal, double up on Man City and Lacroix. So with this team, I definitely would consider selling Subimendi, to be honest. I know ahead of double game week 26, it was kind of tempting bringing in Subimendi. I think he scored in, was it game week 33 or game week 34? So Subimendi looked like a solid punt ahead of double game week 26. But at this point, there are a lot of better options on offer. So didn't really check how many transfers and how much did you have in the bank, Magnus. Really sorry. So what to do? 3 free transfers, 0.5 in the bank, and we'll probably wildcard next game week. Okay, so with this team, 3 free transfers. I would definitely use a couple of those transfers, but let's have a look at some options. Good, thanks. No worries, Weird Coley. I think Tiav is a really solid option, so it's something to consider for Magnus as well. 3 free transfers, 0.5. So I definitely would just keep Gabriel. I would put Erling Haaland on the bench as well. My advice with this team would be to at least do a couple of transfers. So Lacroix, Subimendi to potentially Anthony Gordon and Anderson. Can potentially be a bit. You probably can't afford that, right? With only 0.5 in the back, I'm afraid it's probably a bit too expensive bringing in Anthony Gordon. Potentially you can sell O'Reilly as well to bring in Tiav. But definitely Zubimendi, he should be sold. Yeah, what about Erling Haaland? If you're interested in selling Erling Haaland, you will have a lot of options. So yeah, what about Erling Haaland, Krupi Jr. and Lacroix out for Sesko, Ekitiki, and Tiav? I will wildcard next game week, so we'll definitely not bring in Subimendi or O'Reilly for my wildcard. Yeah. So if you're going to wildcard, you can't just keep Subimendi on the bench. Of course, it makes sense. Erling Haaland, Krupa Jr., and Lokra to Sesko, Ekitike, and Tiav. The only worry is that Ekitike in this game week, he will potentially see limited minutes, but considering that you don't have any other Liverpool attacking cover, bringing in Ekitike is probably a good idea. Sesko, of course, bit of a punt, but he can potentially start. He has done well from the bench recently, so Sesko in, triple up on Man United against Bournemouth. Of course, the thing is that if you decide to bring in Sesko and have a triple up on the Man United attack, I wouldn't be that interested in playing Hill. Erling Haaland, Krupa Jr., Lacroix. You would still have to play Hill against your triple up on the Man United attack with Bruno Fernandes, Mbumo, and Sesko. So, I think I would consider someone like, so for Gameweek31, maybe someone like Raul Jimenez as a punt. Seeing that you will play your wildcard next game week, I think I would do something like Erling Haaland to Ekitike, Krupi Jr. to Raul Jimenez. But you still need a defender. Ooh. I have trust in Newcastle defense this game week despite conceding 7 goals to Barcelona. Yeah. Do you prefer Hall, Livramento, or Tiav? I think long-term Tiav is probably the safest option. Lewis Hall is probably second in line, while I can see some rotation for Livramento, to be honest. So Tiav, definitely the safest option. But since this is actually only for 1 game week, so on your wildcard next game week, I would definitely go for Tiav. But with the transfer this game week, you can potentially go for Lewis Hall. But there might be rotation coming up for both Livramento and Lewis Hall coming up. So in isolation for this game week, I would go for Lewis Hall. On a wildcard next game week, I would go for Tiav. But I think this is kind of a hard decision, to be honest. Erling Haaland, Krupi Jr. You can potentially just keep Krupi Jr. Something like Erling Haaland to Ekitike. But you will have a lot. I know for FPL managers, it feels really weird heading into a game week with like 4 or 5 million in the bank. But you can potentially do something like Erling Haaland to Ekitike and do the next 2 transfers in defense. So Erling Haaland to Ekitike, Lacroix to Hall, and O'Reilly to... Since this is a 1 week punt, probably Robinson from Fulham to field 11 players next game week. So there are a lot of options with this team as long as you're willing to sell Erling Haaland. My advice, seeing that you will play a wildcard next game week, is to go for a couple of punts, to be honest. So I really like Raul Jimenez ahead of game week 1. I'm a bit concerned Krupi Jr. doesn't start. Do you think he starts? The thing with Krupi Jr. is that he's really good value, of course, but the thing is that if he starts, he will most probably play 60 to 70 minutes. If he's on the bench, he will play 20, 30 minutes and have a solid chance of scoring. But I kind of agree that it's not the most exciting player at the moment, and yeah, also considering Fulham. So what about Erling Haaland to Ekitike, Krupi Jr. to Raul Jimenez, and Lacroix to Lewis Hall? Definitely something to consider. Football and stuff. Thanks for joining in. Hello. I did see your comment, but I was in the middle of a sentence. Can you please read my above comment? Definitely will. Just need to scroll up. Sorry about that, football and stuff. The Brighton expert. Actually, I'm making graphics for my Gameweek 32 free hits and wildcard video. I actually have included a couple of Brighton assets in this one. So please correct me if I'm wrong. In this team, I have Van Hecke, I have Pascal Gross, and I have actually included Danny Welbeck as well. So football and stuff, please let me know your thoughts about those 3 players. Football and stuff. My team is Sanchez in goal, Senesi, O'Reilly, I'll sell for Thiago, Anderson, Wilson, Bruno Fernandes, captain, Cole Palmer, Soboslai, Kevin Schade, Ekitike, Igor Thiago. On the bench, Verbruggen, Krupi Jr., Gabriel, and Timber. I think this team looks really good. How many transfers do you have? I definitely agree that selling with this team, that selling O'Reilly to bring in a Newcastle defender makes sense. So you have Senesi, of course, playing against your captain. It's not ideal. But Gabriel and Timber are blanking, so they won't help you this game week. Thank you for all the inputs. Magnus, thanks for joining in, and hopefully my advice made at least a bit of sense. You have a lot of options if you're willing to sell Erling Haaland, so to just finish up with Magnus' team, I think that selling Erling Haaland to Ekitike and Krupi Jr. to Raul Jimenez and bringing in a Newcastle defender for Lacroix makes sense. Do you actually think Minte is a better option compared to Pascal Gross? Welbeck will start every game because there's no midweeks, yeah? So I think that Danny Welbeck, while he's fit and available, he is usually a really good FPL asset. But when there's midweeks, as mentioned from football and stuff in the chat, Danny Welbeck, he can see some rotation. So Danny Welbeck, definitely someone to consider, but not until double game week 33. Gross is on all set pieces, so he's a good version of Stach, but not as good for Defcon, and Van Hecke is great. So thanks. I can potentially consider dropping Gross to bring in Minte as well. I haven't owned Jakuba Minte so far this season. He has been one of the most frustrating FPL assets to own for his owners from game week. Was it like game week 19 to game week 28? He was actually owned by a lot of active FPL managers, but started a lot of those game weeks on the bench. But do you think Minte will start every game week from game week 31 and until the end of the season? And of course, he can potentially be a really good FPL asset. So let's head over to X. We had a couple of other teams as well. FPL FOMO ahead of the game. This was Magnus, and this was Wish Malhotra. So we had a look at this team. I answered this one as well. So 2 free transfers ahead of the game. big problems ahead of blank game week 31. So Gudmundsson suspended, Gabriel. So let's just get this team up on the screen. So a couple of worries for ahead of game week 31. So Gudmundsson suspended. We have Gabriel and Rice, no fixtures for them. We have Richards on the bench as well with Timber and Semenyo. So a double up on Man City, triple up on Arsenal, and Gudmundsson suspended. So with this team, it kind of depends on your chip strategy, of course, but actually I wouldn't mind taking a hit with this team, to be honest. So to at least field 10 players for game week 31, taking a -8 as suggested in the comments with this team selection. I think it kind of makes sense, at least selling Richards and Rice. So something like Rice to Harry Wilson, Richards to Tiav. This would be good transfers ahead of next game week. So Dallin Bailey, Gordon and Django and Ekitike in for Erling Haaland, Rice and Semenyo. Gordon, Django, Ekitike in. Erling Haaland, Rice and Semenyo out. Good moves, good moves. Rice, Semenyo, Erling Haaland, all of them blanking this game week. You will potentially have a really solid differential in Anthony Gordon on penalties for Newcastle playing up front. Django, Tara, really good value, and you will cover the Liverpool attack with Ekitike as well. So if you have 3 free transfers, definitely really good moves ahead of blank game week 31. What transfers would you do if you were to take a -8 with this team? So this, with the team on the screen, which transfers would you do? Semenyo can potentially just stay in the team. Gudmundsson can drop to the bench as well. He is actually the cheapest starting defender in FPL at the moment, so only priced at 3.8. So if you see Gudmundsson on the bench, Richards in the starting 11, Gabriel on the bench, Timber in. So a bench of Gudmundsson, Gabriel, Semenyo. So Richards, Timber, and Rice out. I think I would do something like Timber to Tiav, Richards to Anderson, the Fulham defender, and Rice to Anthony Gordon. Let me just put that in writing real quick. So it's Rice, Timber, Richards to Gordon, something like that. There are other options, of course. You can go for Harry Wilson. We saw that Dallin Bailey, he mentioned Django Tara as well, so of course, but I would definitely just keep Gabriel. I would keep Semenyo. Gudmundsson is fine to just have on the bench. So still do this even if I'm wildcarding next game week. Yeah, I think those moves will be good for this game week. So those players, Gordon, Tiav, Anderson, they can potentially rise in price, and you will most probably want to keep them on a wildcard next game week, but they have really good fixtures this game week as well. So Anthony Gordon is one of those players that potentially will rise in price this evening. So I know those players will be really popular on a game week 32 wildcard. I got a question from Football and Stuff. Can we see your game week 32 wildcard drafts? I will show you in a minute, but players like Anthony Gordon, Tiav Anderson, all of those players will be popular on a game week 32 wildcard, but bringing them in this game week won't really hurt your rank this game week. So definitely use your transfers to field a strong team in blank game week 31. So with this team, you will only have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 available players. And it will most probably be a red arrow, to be honest. So yes, I would make those moves ahead of the deadline. So give me a minute and I will put up my game week 32 wildcard team on the screen. I will make a video on this as well. I think I would go for something like this on a game week 32 wildcard. So this team is not locked in, but it will be something similar. So I will have a double up on Arsenal with Raya and Gabriel. The Arsenal defense, heavily owned, and they are still the best defense in the league, definitely. So I have Lewis Hall, a double up on the Newcastle defense with Hall and Tiav. So only playing one of them in game week 32, but they will be ready for double game week 33. I have Van Hecke in as well, really good fixture in game week 32, and they have a double game week in double game week 33. So this team, I have to mention this team is a team that have solid fixtures for game week 32, and they will have a double game week in double game week 33 as well. So Rice, Pascal Gross can potentially change this to Jakub Aminte, as mentioned in the chat from Football and Stuff. Anthony Gordon, Bruno Fernandes, the only single game week player next in game week 33. And up front, Joe Pedro, Erling Haaland, Danny Welbeck. Strong bench, ready for a bench boost in game week 33 with Dubravka. So Burnley, they will most probably have a double game week as well. Enzo Fernandez with 2 fixtures, Guehi and Tiav. So this will most probably be my something like this, and the team will look like this in double game week 33 with the bench boost. So Raya, Hall, Gabriel, Van Hecke, all defenders will have a double game week in midfield. Rice, Gross, Gordon, Bruno Fernandes, the only single game week player. So this is what I'm aiming for next game week. Can I tell you what would be mine? I would have no Haaland, Cole Palmer, and Saka. Start Dubravka or Verbruggen. For game week 31, I don't really think Verbruggen or Dubravka will keep a clean sheet, but I think if you don't have any attackers from Fulham, go for Dubravka. If you only have one attacker from Liverpool, go for Verbruggen, potentially. If you have attacking players from both teams, if you have attacking players from both Liverpool and Fulham, I would probably just play Dubravka, to be honest. Ayub, hi. Selling Richards and Shalaba, for who I have Gabriel, Maguire, Hill, and no wildcard. So it definitely makes sense to sell Shalaba. He's injured, will potentially miss 3 to 4 game weeks. So Richards out as well. Even though they kept a clean sheet in game week 29, I think selling Crystal Palace players ahead of the blank makes sense. I'm sorry, did I say 29? Of course, I meant game week 30. So Richards and Shalaba. You already have Gabriel, Maguire, Hill. I think ahead of game week 31, the easiest and best options for your defense is probably a Newcastle defender like Tiav or Hall, and potentially, if you want to take a punt, Robinson, the Fulham left back, can potentially be a solid option. If you want to play a bit safer, then Joachim Andersen, the center back, is probably the safest option from the Fulham defense. So safest options are probably Tiav and Andersen, and the punts are Lewis Hall and Robinson. So this is my team at the moment. It's solid ahead of game week 31. I actually have 11 starters without making any transfers, but I'm really tempted to bench Van Hecke because I have Ekitike up front. So having Van Hecke against Ekitike is really not that tempting. So I will most probably use a transfer ahead of the deadline. So Mosquera to a Newcastle defender. It will potentially be Lewis Hall for me because I will play my wildcard in game week 32. So what I'm looking at the moment is Mosquera to Lewis Hall, and then put Van Hecke on the bench. My captain at the moment is Bruno Fernandes. The reason why I'm leaning towards Bruno Fernandes is the fact that he has been really consistent recently, and we know he will play close to 90 minutes on most set pieces, including penalties for Man United. So leaning towards Bruno Fernandes. So Ekitike against Brighton could be a solid option as well, but at the moment he can potentially be a minute's risk. I think Igor Thiago is solid as well. He was unlucky not to get more points in game week 30, so I have the vice captaincy on Ekitike, but I think it's between Bruno Fernandes and Igor Thiago for me at the moment. So the most transferred in player ahead of game week 31 is actually Anthony Gordon. The most sold player, it kind of makes sense. Erling Haaland, Semenyo, Rice, all of those highly owned players that will blank. They are also the most transferred out players ahead of blank game week 31. But Anthony Gordon, Thiav, Bruno Fernandes, 3 of the most transferred in players. So it's the first time for Raul Jimenez. He is actually the bookie's favorite for anytime goal scorer in game week 31. And Fulham, they are also the favorites to keep a clean sheet with 45% chance of a clean sheet. So Fulham topping the list for predicted clean sheets. So Raul Jimenez, Ekitike, and it's actually Calvert-Lewin making the list as well for predicted anytime goal scorers. Fulham, Newcastle, Chelsea, top of the list for predicted clean sheets. So I will most probably bring in a Newcastle defender. I might bring in Anderson as well. Haven't really decided. Maybe I should put up a poll. So please go vote in the poll who do you think is the best replacement for my team at the moment. I have Mosquera. I will most probably sell him and bench Van Hecke in blank game week 31. Van Hecke, he will play against Ekitike. I'm not really that interested. And I will use my wildcard in game week 32. So I will most probably use my transfer and sell Mosquera ahead of the next game week. I'm interested in bringing in someone from Newcastle, potentially Fulham. So it's between Lewis Hall, Anderson, and Tiav. Let's have a look on X as well. So if you're interested in having your team reviewed, head over to X, post a picture of your team selection, and we'll get it up on the screen. So is this one the Q&A game week 31? Post a picture in the comments. I think we have covered all of those teams. I think we're good. Let me know in the chats if you decide to post your team in there. What's your rank? My rank at the moment is 330k. I was 220, but I had a bad game week in game week 29, but green arrow for me in game week 30. Hopefully another green arrow in game week 31. Hey bro, how are you? Orange Apple, thanks for joining in. All good. Starting to get excited for the blank game week. My team looks solid. I actually have 11 starters for blank game week 31. I have one free transfer. I'm not really satisfied with Van Hecke, so I might actually sell him, and I might actually bench Van Hecke, sell Mosquera ahead of the deadline. Football and stuff. I'm 230. What rank could I get? So 230 at this point, potentially with solid chip strategy and a bit of luck, you can potentially break into the top 50k at least, I'd say. Gordon or Soboslai. I think at this point I would go Gordon, to be honest. Soboslai, solid option as well, but Gordon with the potential double game week in double game week 33 on penalties for Newcastle playing up front. I think I will go for him. Orange Apple. I have 2 free transfers this game week, and I need to move 2 of Erling Haaland, Semenyo, and Gabriel. I will wildcard in game week 32, so it's basically a free hit. So who to go for? So it's basically 1 week punts. Need to remove 2 of those players. So most probably you are heavily invested in all of them, right? Erling Haaland, Semenyo, Gabriel. So Gabriel and Semenyo, 2 of the players that have gone up the most in price. So if you really want, I think one thing you should consider is, do you want Erling Haaland back or not? If you really want to bring Erling Haaland back for double game week 33, you can potentially just keep him on the bench. So Erling Haaland, the most expensive player in FPL, will be a struggle to fit him in, or you have to keep a lot of funds on your bench if you want him back for double game week 33. But I have 2 free transfers. I need to move 2 of Erling Haaland, Semenyo, and Gabriel. So who's on your bench this game week? I actually have Erling Haaland and Gabriel on my bench. I'm thinking one of Cole Palmer or Joe Pedro, maybe Raul or even Morgan Rogers. Yeah, I think potentially something like Pedro and Raul Jimenez for a 1 week punt. Of course, Joe Pedro is his ownership is above 50%, so it's not really a punt, but it's in really good form. One of the players with the best attacking stats, and I think Palmer, Raul Jimenez could be a really powerful duo in game week 31. Football and stuff. Predictions for Brighton, Liverpool. I think the book is, of course, they believe in Liverpool in this game, but I think Brighton might do well. Can't really see a beating, so potentially a draw, potentially Liverpool winning with 1 goal, something like 1-2, 1-2, 2-2, or potentially 2-3. I can't really see Brighton winning this one, to be honest, but I think they will at least put up a fight. Do you prefer Pedro or Cole Palmer if you had to choose just one Chelsea player just for this week? I think, to be honest, I talked about Joao Pedro. He's in really good form, one of the players with the best attacking stats, but considering his ownership, it's a 1 week punt. I would actually go against him, considering that he is owned by above 50% of the managers. So I would definitely go for Cole Palmer this game week. Penalty taker for Chelsea. Hopefully this will be a game week where he really explodes. Of course, he has a lot of routes to go to points on set pieces, taking corners, free kicks, penalties as mentioned. So seeing that you will transfer this player in wildcard in game week 32, I would definitely go for Cole Palmer. If I were to use my wildcard this game week, I think I would go the safe route and go for Joao Pedro. So I have actually considered and I have actually shown on the screen as well my game week 32 wildcard team. I will make a video on this as well. So if you're interested, if you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel to watch that video as well. But I think on a wildcard next game week in game week 32, I would go for Joao Pedro. But using a transfer this game week and then wildcard in game week 32, I would go for Cole Palmer this game week. So Cole Palmer, Raul Jimenez could be a really interesting duo this game week. Hopefully Chelsea or Fulham, potentially both of them, can get a penalty. Blue stuff, I'd say 1-1. Welbeck scores early, then like Szoboszlai or Ekitike nicks a goal. Yeah, I have talked about my game week 32 wildcard draft, and I actually have Welbeck in there. Football and stuff, Brighton expert season ticket holder as well. I have actually considered bringing in Danny Welbeck for game week 32. Yeah, thinking Palmer, then would you do Erling Haaland to Raul or Gabriel to Hall Anderson? I think what's more important is to actually keep Gabriel. His price has gone up quite a bit. I think it's more upside in bringing in Raul Jimenez playing at home against Burnley. To be honest. Haaland to Raul Jimenez. Would be my preferred transfer. Do you trust me with Brighton info? Definitely, you have been right so many times the last couple of months. So you have predicted the starting 11 for Brighton, at least the most interesting FPL assets, and got that right so far. So from what I know, we should trust football and stuff when it comes to predictions for Brighton starting 11s. Matthias, thanks for joining in. Sorry for missing your comment. Hi, I need to bring a player for 2 game weeks. I'm creating in game week 33. My doubt is Tavernier or Garner for Lefebvre, or to move out Semenyo and bring in Cunha or Szoboszlai. So for 2 game weeks, I need to bring a player for 2 game weeks. I'm free hitting or wildcarding in the double game week. Tavernier, so I'm not really sure if I get the question Tavernier or Garner XL for Lefebvre. So are you considering to transfer Tavernier or Garner out to bring in Lefebvre? Or are you considering, so it's either Garner or Tavernier to Lefebvre, or it's Semenyo to Cunha or Szoboszlai? Can I potentially do something like Garner or Tavernier to Harry Wilson potentially? Is Wilson arguably the best captain possibly? So I think that he is a really good captain shout this game week. My only worry when it comes to Wilson, I really like my captains to have penalties as well. So this is the reason why I'm leaning towards captaining Bruno Fernandes, but there are some good captain options this game week. I have talked about this like 15 minutes ago as well. Ekitike will not be my captain. He's my vice captain at the moment, but I think I will just change this right away. At the moment, I'm actually leaning towards Bruno Fernandes with Igor Thiago as my vice captain. So I think Harry Wilson is a really good shout as well. So I consider to transfer out Lefebvre or Semenyo. Sorry, I have Wilson already. Is Harry Wilson the best captain option? Possibly. I think Harry Wilson is a really good option. He is a punt. Bruno Fernandes is probably the safest option this game week, I'd say. Will be one of the players with the highest effective ownership in blank game week 1. So if you want to take a punt, the fixture can't be much better for Harry Wilson. So definitely someone to consider, like the captain shout from Orange Apple, to be honest. Sandri, hi mate, can you have a look at my team? I will have a look in a minute. Thanks for joining in, Sandri. I consider transferring out Lefebvre or Semenyo. Already have Wilson from Matthias. So I think I would consider something like Semenyo to maybe Anthony Gordon, potentially Gibbs White for a punt. So at least you're bringing in midfielders. Anthony Gordon playing out of position as the number 9 for Newcastle at the moment on penalties. The same goes for Gibbs White. He's not playing up front, but in the number 10 spot. He's the creative spark for Nottingham Forest. They have some good upcoming fixtures, and in blank game week 1, playing against one of the weakest defenses in that Spurs team. So Anthony Gordon, Gibbs White, definitely good options ahead of blank game week 1. So this is Sandri's team. Let's have a look at how game week 30 went. 69 points. Another green arrow for Sandri. This, let's see, we can get this a bit better like this. Yep. So it's Raya in goal with the clean sheet. Gabriel as well. Richards 10 points. Nice. And Van Dijk a bit disappointing, of course. But Szoboszlai with the goal. Harry Wilson blank. Bruno Fernandes. Rodgers really frustrating. I had Rodgers as well. Up front, Erling Haaland. Captain Igor Thiago with the goal. Could have been a lot better for Igor Thiago captainers, but at least he got the goal. And 1 point from Ekitike Andersen, 7 points on the bench. So this was a decent game week. 69 points. Another green arrow for Sandri. So let's have a look at this mini league as well. We have had a look at this mini league for the last game weeks. Still number 1. No surprise after a green arrow, so there we go. Need to make it a bit smaller. Sorry about that. And there we go. So this is the mini league we have been following throughout this season. We had a nervous Sandri around Christmas. Arsenal FC, his biggest rival, getting kind of close. It was like 50 points between them, but at this point we can see it's 130 points clear. So I think this mini league is actually starting to get wrapped up. So I'm not saying it, but in a couple of game weeks, I think we can say congratulations to Sandri for wrapping up this mini league. Well done. 100, is it 129 points? Let's have a look at the TFS mini league as well. So if you're interested, join the league. Ooh, I was second. Edwin, he has overtaken my spot in the mini league. Your worst nightmare, James Pitt, still on top. Edwin second. I'm third in the league. We have Flying Peaky Madridista. We have Doria Dickens Bowlers, Gunners Season 7, Miracle in Cells number 7, Constant, Please Rachel. Not really sure what's wrong with that last team in 24th. My Wilk Q55, Rafa Wilk, only 587 points. It's just like an anti-FPL team. I think this team is probably created a bit later than other teams. Overall rank 12 million. Yeah, so that's the reason why this team is struggling in the mini league as well. $160. Thanks, you're still undisputed and undefeated champion. Nice. Virat Kohli, okay. Calvert-Lewin against Brentford isn't a bad fixture. So the thing is that Calvert-Lewin, a lot of frustrated Calvert-Lewin owners in game week 30, but if Calvert-Lewin scored that penalty, he would have been discussed a lot more in the FPL community ahead of blank game week 31. So Leeds, they have a couple of decent fixtures, and Calvert-Lewin, as you can see in the graphics on the right-hand side, Calvert-Lewin, he is actually one of the bookies' favorites to score in blank game week 31. I was a bit surprised checking the bookie sites for anytime goal scorer, but Calvert-Lewin, he is actually above Igor Thiago for anytime goal scorer this game week. So Fulham, Newcastle, Chelsea, the favorites to keep a clean sheet. The favorites for anytime goal scorer is actually the first time this season Raul Jimenez. Ekitike is second with Calvert-Lewin third. Good point from Orange Apple. Calvert-Lewin, he is actually a decent option going forward. So remember, it's a Friday deadline. The reason why the Q&A is on a Thursday is obviously that it's a Friday deadline ahead of blank game week 31. So I always have a Q&A the night before the deadline. So a Friday deadline means a Thursday Q&A. So 21 hours, 27 minutes until the deadline. I will have a deadline stream tomorrow as well and confirm my transfers ahead of blank game week 31. It will be a bit earlier, so it will be like 4 hours before the deadline. I will not be able to have an actual deadline stream this game week. So if you're interested in joining the deadline stream tomorrow, that would be really, I will be really grateful. So a new stream will be set up for tomorrow. So if you don't have any plans, please join that one. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing that. So I actually have managed to get 4,000 watch time hours on my YouTube channel. So thanks for anyone contributing to reaching the milestone of 4,000 hours. So it's actually possible to become a channel member. I don't really have any channel members so far, but if you're interested in being the first channel member, it's possible if you click the link that's in the description down below. As mentioned, 21 hours, 26 minutes until the deadline. When it comes to price changes, there will be price changes tonight. Tiav, Hall, both of the most popular Newcastle defenders will most probably go up in price. The same goes for Van Dijk, and Rice Semenyo will most probably drop in price. It makes sense. Rice, Semenyo, two of the most transferred out players, and Bruno Guimaraes from Newcastle as well, injured, will not play in blank game week 1. He will most probably drop in price. So the most sold players, Erling Haaland, Semenyo, Rice, I think we will see a drop in price for those players. When it comes to price rises, as mentioned, Newcastle defenders, Fulham defenders, really popular ahead of blank game week 1. I will most probably transfer in one of those players myself. So at the moment, my plan is to sell Mosquera and put Van Hecke on the bench. So Mosquera to someone like Anderson, Robinson, or potentially Lewis Hall or Tiav. So go vote in the poll. Let's see the result. Lewis Hall 22, Anderson 33, and we have Tiav at 44. So at the moment, the favorite in the poll is selling Mosquera to bring in Tiav and putting Van Hecke on the bench. I don't really hate this move. Of course, I put it in the poll for a reason, but Mosquera out, Tiav in. Maybe I should just confirm the transfer this evening and save 0.1. I know at this point that Mosquera, he will definitely not play, so Mosquera out. Let's just have a look at the ownership of Tiav. 7.7. Nice. I think I would just... Still a big differential. So I have had a look at X during the last couple of days, and considering the fact that how many times Tiav has been mentioned on X, kind of expected his ownership to be well above 10%, but only selected by 7.7% of the managers. And considering the fact that Tiav, he can get attacking returns, he can get defensive contributions, only priced at 5 million. I think he is a really good transfer target ahead of blank game week 31. So my transfer will most probably be Mosquera to Tiav. He's the favorite in the poll as well, 44%. I think I'll just confirm this move, to be honest. So the reason why I'm considering to make this move right now is the fact that Tiav, he will go up in price tonight. Mosquera will not drop. But considering the fact that Mosquera, he was just a punt ahead of double game week 26 for me. He did well. He actually got 11 points in double game week 26, so it was kind of a success. So Mosquera, he has done his job. No fixture for him in blank game week 31. So Mosquera to Tiav makes sense. So transfer done. I just have to remember to put Van Hecke on the bench. So this will most probably be my team for blank game week 31. Is Kelleher in goal. I just transferred in Tiav. Home fixture against Sunderland. Hopefully Newcastle can keep a clean sheet. At least they are second favorites to keep a clean sheet, and he has attacking potential and he can get defensive contributions. I have Van de Ven against Forest, not the best fixture, but Van Dijk against Brighton is decent. Tavernier against Man United, Anderson against Spurs, Rodgers, Bruno Fernandes, really good fixture for Harry Wilson. And Orange Apple mentioned in the chat, Harry Wilson, he might actually be a solid captain option this game week. Up front, I have Ekitike, Igor Thiago. At the moment, I'm leaning towards Bruno Fernandes, captain, but we will get more information tomorrow ahead of the deadline. I will have a deadline stream tomorrow as well, so if you're interested, join in. I will be live like 4 hours ahead of the deadline tomorrow, so if you're interested, join that one. Thanks all for joining in. Thanks for all the questions, and if you haven't done so already, please consider give the stream a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. But as mentioned, best of luck if you don't make it to the stream tomorrow, and hopefully I'll see you next time.